Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the English Learner Podcast. My name is Anna.
And I'm Tom. We're very happy you're here learning English with us today.
If you enjoy practicing English through real conversations, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can follow our future episodes.
That's right. Our goal is to help you learn practical English that people use in everyday life.
In this podcast, we talk about simple situations that happen in daily life so you can learn useful words and expressions.
And today, we have a very practical topic that many people experience, taking a taxi in English.
Yes, taking a taxi is something people do in many cities around the world. Sometimes you need a taxi to go to work, to school, to the airport, or to visit friends.
Taxis are especially helpful when you are in a hurry, when the weather is bad, or when public transportation is not convenient.
They are also very useful when you travel to a new city and you don't know the roads very well.
When you take a taxi, you usually need to communicate with the driver, even if the conversation is short.
That's why learning simple taxi conversations in English is very helpful.
For example, when you get into a taxi, the first thing you usually say is your destination.
You might say something like, "Hello, can you take me to the train station?" Or, "Can you take me to this address?"
Sometimes passengers show the address on their phone or a map to make it easier for the driver.
That's a good idea, especially if the place name is difficult to pronounce.
Another common thing passengers ask about is the time it will take to arrive.
Yes, you might ask, "How long will it take to get there?"
Or if you are worried about traffic, you could ask, "Is the traffic very busy today?"
Taxi drivers usually know the city very well, so they can choose the best route.
Some passengers also ask about the price before the trip starts.
You can say something like, "How much will it cost?" Or, "Do you use a meter?"
In many cities, taxis use a meter to calculate the price, depending on distance and time.
But in some places, the driver may give you a fixed price before the trip begins.
During the ride, some passengers enjoy small talk with the driver.
Yes, simple topics like the weather, the traffic, or the city are very common.
For example, you might say, "It's very hot today," or "The city looks very busy this morning."
Sometimes passengers also ask the driver questions about the city.
They might ask, "Do many tourists visit this area?" Or, "Is this a popular place in the city?"
But of course, some passengers prefer a quiet ride and just relax during the trip.
And that's perfectly fine too. Not every taxi ride needs a long conversation.
When the taxi arrives at your destination, the passenger usually pays the driver.
After paying, it's polite to say something like, "Thank you," or "Have a great day."
In some countries, people also give a small tip to the driver to show appreciation for the service.
Even though these conversations are short, they are very useful for practicing English in real life.
Taxi conversations help you practice polite questions, giving directions, and everyday vocabulary.
And once you learn these simple phrases, you will feel more confident when traveling or living in a city.
Today, we will talk about common taxi situations and useful English expressions you can use during a taxi ride.
So stay with us as we explore how to use English naturally when taking a taxi in your daily life.
Another common situation when taking a taxi is explaining exactly where you want to go. Sometimes the place is very well known, like the airport, a big shopping mall, or a famous hotel.
Yes, in those cases you can simply say something like, "Please take me to the airport," or "Can you take me to Central Mall?"
But sometimes the place is smaller or not very famous, so you may need to give more details.
For example, you could say, "It's near the park," or "It's next to the bank on Main Street."
Giving clear directions helps the driver understand your destination more easily.
Some passengers also use navigation apps on their phones to help show the location.
Yes, you might say, "Here is the address on my phone," or "We can follow the map."
This is especially helpful when you are visiting a new place or traveling in another country.
Another thing passengers sometimes ask is about the route.
For example, you might ask, "Can we take the highway?" or "Is this the fastest way?"
Taxi drivers usually know many different routes and can choose the best one depending on traffic.
Traffic is a common topic when talking with taxi drivers.
Yes, many passengers ask questions like, "Is the traffic always this busy?"
Or the driver might say something like, "The traffic is heavy today," or "This road is usually very crowded in the morning."
Talking about traffic is a simple and natural conversation topic. Sometimes passengers also ask for recommendations during the ride. For example, you might say, "Do you know a good restaurant nearby?" Or, "Is there a good coffee shop around here?" Taxi drivers often know many places in the city, so they can give helpful suggestions. Another situation is when you want the driver to stop somewhere for a short time. For example, you might say, "Could you stop here for a moment?" Or, "Can you wait here for 5 minutes?" This can happen if you need to pick something up or meet someone quickly. Some passengers also ask the driver to drop them off at a specific location. For example, you could say, "Please drop me off at the corner," or "You can stop right here." These phrases are very useful and easy to remember. Taking a taxi might seem like a small situation, but it is actually a great opportunity to practice real English conversations. Even short conversations can help improve your listening and speaking skills. And the more you practice these simple expressions, the more confident you will feel using English in everyday situations.
Now let's continue our conversation by talking about what usually happens when you first get into a taxi. The beginning of the ride is often very simple, but it is still important to communicate clearly and politely.
Yes, so when you enter the taxi, the driver will usually greet you. The driver might say something like, "Hello," or "Where would you like to go?"
At that moment, you should clearly tell the driver your destination. For example, you can say, "Hello, please take me to the airport."
Or you might say, "Can you take me to the train station, please?"
Using polite words like please and thank you makes the conversation friendly and respectful.
Sometimes passengers also show the address on their phone.
Yes, you might say something like, "Here is the address," or "It's this place on the map."
This is very helpful, especially if the place name is difficult to pronounce or if the driver is not familiar with it.
Another common thing passengers ask about is the travel time.
For example, you can ask, "How long will it take to get there?"
The driver might respond with something like, "It will take about 15 minutes," or maybe around 20 minutes because of traffic.
Traffic is a very common topic during taxi rides.
Yes, passengers often ask questions like, "Is the traffic always this busy?"
And the driver might answer, "Yes, the traffic is usually heavy in the morning," or "It's usually better in the evening."
Some passengers also ask the driver about the price before the trip begins.
For example, you might say, "How much will the trip cost?"
Or you could ask, "Do you use a meter?"
In many cities, taxis use a meter that calculates the cost based on the distance and time.
But in some places, the driver may give you a fixed price before the trip starts.
If you are unsure, it is always okay to ask politely before the ride begins.
Another useful situation is when you want to make sure the driver understands the location correctly.
You might say, "It's near the shopping mall," or "It's next to the big park."
Giving extra information can help the driver find the place more easily.
Some passengers also ask the driver to take a specific route.
For example, you might say, "Could we take the highway?"
Or you could say, "Can we avoid the busy streets?"
Drivers often know many routes around the city, so they can suggest the fastest or easiest one.
During the ride, some passengers like to have a small conversation with the driver.
Yes, they might talk about the weather, the city, or daily life.
For example, you could say, "It's very hot today."
Or you might say, "The city looks very busy this morning."
These simple conversations are great for practicing English in a natural way.
Sometimes passengers ask drivers about the city.
For example, you could ask, "Is this area popular with tourists?"
Or, "Are there many restaurants around here?"
Taxi drivers often know the city very well, so they can give helpful information.
Another situation that can happen is when a passenger needs the driver to slow down or stop somewhere.
For example, you might say, "Could you stop here for a moment?"
Or, "Please stop near that building."
These simple phrases are very useful during taxi rides.
Some passengers also ask the driver to wait for a short time.
You might say something like, "Can you wait here for 5 minutes?"
The driver may agree, especially if the wait is not too long.
Taxi rides may seem like small, everyday situations, but they are actually great opportunities to practice English.
Even short conversations can help improve your listening and speaking skills.
The more you practice these simple expressions, the more confident you will feel using English in real life.
Taking a taxi is a common situation that helps you practice polite requests, questions, and everyday vocabulary.
And learning these phrases will make traveling and communicating much easier.
Now let's talk about what usually happens during the taxi ride. Once the trip has started, passengers and drivers sometimes have small conversations.
Yes, these short conversations are often called small talk. They are simple, friendly discussions about everyday topics.
One of the most common small talk topics is the weather.
For example, a passenger might say, "The weather is very hot today."
Or you might say, "It looks like it's going to rain later."
The driver might respond with something like, Yes, it has been very hot all week.
Talking about the weather is easy because everyone experiences it.
Another common topic is traffic. Traffic affects many people who travel around the city.
For example, you could ask the driver, is the traffic always this busy?
The driver might answer, yes, mornings and evenings are usually the busiest times.
Passengers sometimes also ask drivers about the city.
For example, you might ask, do many tourists visit this area?
Or, is this part of the city very popular?
Taxi drivers usually know the city very well, so they can often give interesting information.
Some drivers may also recommend places to visit.
For example, the driver might say, there is a great restaurant near here, or you should visit the park in the evening.
These kinds of conversations can make the taxi ride more interesting.
However, not every passenger wants to talk a lot during the ride.
That's true. Some people prefer a quiet ride so they can relax or think.
And that's completely normal. Short answers like yes, no, or thank you are perfectly fine.
Another situation that can happen during the ride is when the passenger needs to give directions.
For example, you might say, please turn left at the next street.
Or you could say, go straight for 2 blocks.
These phrases are useful if you know the area well and want to guide the driver.
Sometimes passengers also ask the driver to slow down or be careful.
You might say politely, could you please slow down a little?
Being polite is always important when speaking with someone who is helping you.
Another common situation is when passengers want to check the route.
For example, you might ask, is this the fastest way?
Or is there another road we can take?
Drivers usually try to choose the best route, but traffic conditions can change during the trip.
That's why communication between the passenger and driver can be helpful.
Sometimes passengers also notice interesting places during the ride.
For example, you might say, that building looks beautiful.
Or this street has many shops.
These simple observations can lead to friendly conversations.
Taxi rides can be short or long, depending on the distance.
But even during a short ride, you can practice useful English expressions.
Talking about directions, traffic, the weather, or the city helps you build confidence in speaking English.
And every real-life conversation is a chance to improve your communication skills.
Taxi rides may seem like small daily experiences, but they are actually great opportunities to practice practical English.
The more you practice these simple conversations, the more natural your English will become.
Now that we've covered many useful phrases and situations for taking a taxi, let's talk more about why practicing these conversations is so important. Even a short ride gives you a chance to use real English in real life.
That's right. Taxi conversations may seem small, but they teach you how to ask questions politely, give directions clearly, and respond naturally.
For example, sentences like, could you take me to this address? Or how long will it take to get there? Are very practical. You can use similar phrases in other everyday situations, like asking for directions on the street or ordering a ride online.
Another reason these conversations are important is that they help you build confidence. Speaking with someone, even for a few minutes, allows you to practice pronunciation, listening, and forming sentences on the spot.
And remember, taxi drivers often speak different levels of English. Sometimes you need to listen carefully, sometimes you need to ask politely for repetition.
Exactly. You can use phrases like, sorry, could you repeat that? Or, can you say it more slowly, please? These simple phrases make communication easier and less stressful.
Another great thing about taxi conversations is that they often include practical vocabulary. Words for directions, locations, traffic, and time are used all the time.
For example, you might say, turn left at the next street, or go straight for 2 blocks. These phrases are useful in many other situations beyond taxis.
Small talk is another useful skill. Talking about the weather, traffic, or the city helps you practice conversational English naturally.
Yes, you might say, the weather is very hot today, or it looks like the streets are very busy. Even short comments like these help improve your fluency.
Taxi conversations also teach you to be polite and respectful. Saying please, thank you, or excuse me is very important in English-speaking countries.
And it makes the ride pleasant for both you and the driver. Politeness always helps in daily life situations.
Another benefit is that taxi rides often happen when you are traveling or exploring a new place.
Exactly. This means you can learn English while discovering the city, asking questions about interesting places, restaurants, or sites along the way.
You might hear recommendations like, there's a good coffee shop nearby, or the museum is very popular. These conversations give you useful vocabulary for travel, too.
And it's important to remember that making mistakes is normal. You don't need to speak perfectly. The key is to try, practice, and learn from each ride.
Every small conversation adds to your confidence and helps you get used to speaking English in real-life situations.
So whether your taxi ride is short or long, quiet or chatty, it is a valuable opportunity to practice English.
The more you practice, the more natural your English will become, and the more comfortable you will feel speaking with different people.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the English Learner Podcast. We hope you found it helpful and enjoyable.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to follow our future episodes. Share this podcast with friends who want to practice English in daily life.
Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember that every conversation, no matter how short, helps you improve your English.
Keep using English in your daily life. Stay confident and enjoy the learning process.
We're happy you joined us today, and we hope these tips and examples help you feel more comfortable taking a taxi in English.
See you next time on the English Learner Podcast.
Until then, keep learning, keep practicing, and have fun using English every day.